Okay, so when you think about the big AI revolution, you're probably picturing, I don't know, social media apps, chatbots, that kind of thing, right? Well, today we're going somewhere completely different. We are headed to the gritty, unglamorous world of heavy industry, where one of tech's most unlikely founders is using AI to solve actual life or death problems.
So I want you to just imagine this for a second. You're 24 years old, and you walk into a boardroom packed with oil and gas executives. This question right here, it's literally hanging in the air every single time for our founder, Thomas Lee Young. The skepticism is just thick, but how he answers it, well, that is where our story really begins.
So who is this guy really? Well, his story starts thousands of miles away from Silicon Valley, on a Caribbean island, and it's fueled by a dream that honestly seemed almost impossibly big.
Thomas Lee Young is kind of a walking contradiction. He's got a Caribbean accent, a Chinese last name, and his family tree is absolutely steeped in oil and gas engineering. But ever since he was 11 years old, his heart was set on a completely different world, Silicon Valley. That was the magical place where he believed you could build literally anything you could dream up.
And this kid was relentless. I mean, to get into his dream school, Caltech, he wrote his application essay about hijacking his family's Roomba, you know, the robot vacuum, to create 3D spatial maps of his house. That's the kind of creative, out-of-the-box thinking we're talking about. And you know what? It worked. He got in.
So he'd done it. He had made it. The path to his dream was crystal clear. But then 2020 happened, and suddenly the world just threw up one roadblock after another, threatening to shatter everything he'd worked for. And it was just a brutal 1-2-3 punch. First, the acceptance letter, pure joy. Then, boom, the pandemic hits, and visa processing just grinds to a complete halt. And then, the final crushing blow, a market crash that completely wiped out the $350,000 college fund his family had spent years building. Just like that, the dream looked like it was over.
As you can imagine, he was devastated. But with almost no time to decide, he made a really pragmatic choice. He pivoted to a cheaper 3-year engineering program in the UK. And what seemed like this massive, heartbreaking detour, well, it turned out to be the most direct path to his true calling.
So over in the UK, he lands a job at Jaguar Land Rover. And it's there, deep inside the world of heavy manufacturing he'd heard about his whole life, that he stumbles upon this massive, dangerous problem that was just hiding in plain sight.
He was just floored by what he found. We're talking life or death safety procedures being managed with, like, pen and paper. The software they did have was so clunky and awful that workers flat out refused to use it. And the instruction manuals, the absolute last line of defense, were just riddled with errors and almost impossible to keep up to date.
So naturally, he pitches a solution to Jaguar, and they passed. But he wasn't deterred. He took a huge risk. He secretly applied to this super elite incubator with like a 1% exceptions rate. To go to the final interview, he told his boss he was flying home to Trinidad for a wedding. And when he got accepted, he walked right back into that office and quit on the spot. Yeah, I'm pretty sure his boss figured out pretty quickly there was no wedding.
At that incubator, he didn't just find a path forward for his idea. He found a partner who understood his journey perfectly. And this is where the solution, a company called Interface, was finally born.
Get this, he meets his co-founder, Aryan Mehta, and their stories are just uncannily similar. Mehta, from Belgium, also had his American dream of going to Georgia Tech completely derailed by the exact same COVID-era visa problems. So they're both kind of stranded in the UK, and they bonded instantly over this shared experience. In fact, they became the only founding team in their entire group to stick together. So together, they built Interface. What is it? Well, it's an AI platform designed to solve the exact problem Young saw at Jaguar. It basically intelligently reads these super dense safety manuals, and it cross-checks them against technical drawings and regulations to automatically find those dangerous needle-in-a-haystack errors that even experienced humans can miss.
So, does it work? Oh boy, does it work. When they deployed their software with a major Canadian energy company, the results weren't just good, they were absolutely mind-blowing.
In just 2.5 months, their AI found over 10,800 errors and potential improvements in the company's safety procedures. Let that sink in. Nearly 11,000 opportunities for disaster that were just sitting there, hiding in plain sight.
And to put that in perspective for you, a manual audit of that same scale would have taken the company something like 2 to 3 years to complete. Interface did it in 2.5 months. I mean, the jump in efficiency is just staggering.
And what about the cost?
Well, the company estimated that doing all of that work the old-fashioned way would have cost them over $35 million. So this wasn't just an improvement, it was a total game changer.
But look, this isn't just about efficiency or money. As one of their investors pointed out, the stakes are so much higher. The AI found a document, a simple document, that listed the wrong pressure range for a critical valve. That document, with its little typo, had been in active use for a decade. It was a ticking time bomb that everyone had missed.
And this really brings us to the heart of the story. Because everything that made Thomas Lee Young seem like an outsider, his age, his accent, his unusual background, all of it has become his single greatest competitive advantage. It's his superpower. You see, the company basically lives in two completely different worlds. On one hand, you've got the San Francisco headquarters with all the talk of AI, venture capital, and software. But then, on the other hand, you have the field. We're talking oil rigs, hard hats, and the blue-collar workers whose actual lives depend on this technology working right.
And Thomas, he's the bridge between those two worlds. When he walks into those boardrooms, he can speak their language. And I don't just mean the language of AI. I mean the language of oil rigs and operational efficiency, stuff he learned from a lifetime of family dinners. That's the wow moment that flips that initial skepticism into total belief.
And what this has done is create a completely different kind of tech company. You have field operators who usually hate new software, who are so impressed they're asking how they can personally invest. There's a hard hat always ready to go in their San Francisco office. And top engineers who are tired of building yet another sales tool. They are drawn to this mission of solving real life and death problems in an industry that less than 1% of Silicon Valley startups even bothers to look at.
When you step back, this whole journey completely redefines our image of what a tech founder is supposed to look like. It's a story that proves the most impactful innovation isn't always born in a Stanford dorm room. Sometimes it comes from a kid in Trinidad whose dream got derailed, forcing him to find an even better one.
And really, it leaves us with this fascinating question to think about. While we're all focused on AI that's generating images and text, is it possible that the truly profound, world-changing AI revolution is quietly happening somewhere else, hiding in the pipes and the valves and the manuals of the very industries that have powered our world for over a century?